Thank you, Jamie. Let me know when we're ready to go.
We are
and
ready.
We are. So would you like to establish quorum?
I will. I'll go ahead and call roll. I'll start with Commissioner Carter.
Here.
Commissioner G. We didn't quite hear you, Nelvin.
Here.
Oh, perfect. I just wanted to make sure we had your sound. Commissioner Liu.
Here.
And Commissioner Dixit.
Present.
And Vice Chair Wheeler.
Here.
And Chair Bedard.
Here.
And we do have a quorum.
So then, shall we move to the Pledge of Allegiance?
Jamie, you're muted.
Yes, I realized that after. Let me bring the flag up. Hold on one moment. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of America.
The United States of America. To the republic for which it stands.
one nation,
indivisible, with
visible.
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, are there any members of the public who wish to comment on items not on the agenda?
We do not currently have any hands raised and did not receive any messages at the start requesting to speak.
Excellent. So I'm going to go straight into the items for consideration. And number one is the approval of the minutes from Thursday, September 2nd.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
I'll second.
Okay.
Excellent. Should we call the roll?
Yep. I will start with Vice Chair Wheeler,
Yes.
Commissioner G,
Yes.
Chair Bedard,
Yes.
Commissioner Dixit,
Yes.
Commissioner Liu,
Yes.
and Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously.
Thank you, Jamie. So with that, I'd like to go to item number 2, which is the Santa Clara County Library District presentations.
Great. Thank you so much. I'll go first and then Rose will follow. So let me just share my slides here. There we go. Can you see my slides full screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. I'm learning how to use this program, so thank you. So my name is Allison Liu, and I'm a library services manager with our library system. And I'm here on behalf of Jennifer Weeks, our county librarian. Thank you for having me today. This month's report will begin with an overview of priorities that we have established based on the results of a patron survey. There we go. So we have established commitments. Our priorities we are calling commitments because they are commitments to the community for our library system. And these directly derive from the results of the survey that we just conducted. And in subsequent slides, I'll be discussing that information that we gathered from the patron survey. But first, I want to show you the commitments that we've formed for our library system based on that survey data. And so our theme will be Learn, Engage, and Transform. Our library system as CCLD transforms lives by enabling lifelong learning and community engagement. And we have developed 5 main commitments for our library system going forward. And we've drawn them here as cogs because cogs interlock and they are all dependent on each other. But together as a whole, you can create a strong system. So the first one is celebrate and support reading and learning. The second, provide inclusive, extraordinary library experiences. The third, support an engaged team that is adaptable, empathetic, and always learning. The fourth one is embrace new technology and improve facilities to provide convenient and responsive library services. And finally, be a strong community partner. So these are our commitments to the community. And as I mentioned, we developed those commitments based on a careful study of the recent patron survey. So now to talk about that survey. The survey was conducted from May 19th through June 30th of 2021. And we're incredibly grateful to the community for such a high response rate of 8,575 and more folks. And so the SCCLD, our library system's online patron survey, helped us to learn what services and resources were most used by our patrons during the pandemic and most desired for our patrons by our patrons going forward. We conducted this survey primarily online, but also through many paper surveys that were also available at all locations and including the bookmobile. And the next 3 slides focus on our takeaways from the survey. And this first slide, these takeaways are all about library resources. And so we learned that the community really values our e-services, our ebooks and our downloadable audiobooks or streaming audiobooks, and have an increased demand for that and would like to continue growing that even more. And so as we develop these takeaways, we also developed questions we can ask ourselves to continue to improve in those areas, to really excel in these areas that the community values. So with this first category, we ask ourselves, how do we adjust the collection with physical and digital to meet the shifting needs? The next item is that the community has an increased demand for online holds. And so we ask ourselves, how do we make holds successful in the libraries? And these drive us to continue to improve our services. Next is the kids' book bundles, which are sets of books that librarians pre-selected that was a new initiative developed at first when the libraries were first closed at the beginning of the pandemic. And the survey showed that they were incredibly popular. And so to have a set of books pre-selected that you could take the whole set home and to enjoy. So we ask ourselves, when and how is the best way to offer book bundles for kids, and what tools are needed? And finally, increase awareness of online resources and asking ourselves what opportunities exist within the libraries and with community partners to increase awareness. And our second slide about takeaways focuses on services. One new service we started relatively recently, and therefore it was wonderful to gain feedback through the patron survey, was Book Dash, which allows patrons patrons that met certain criteria to have books delivered directly to their houses, which was has received very positive feedback as a helpful service to the community. So we ask ourselves, how do we expand Book Dash to all communities and keep it efficient? And in fact, we have now expanded it to all communities. Another takeaway is that the community values many ways to contact the library. And we currently offer chat, text, email, phone, and other ways to contact us. And so we continue to want to do our best in communication. So we ask ourselves, how can we maximize our availability and accessibility to patrons? The next item is expanded open hours. As you know, when the pandemic first was new, the libraries needed to close. And ever since then, we've been increasing our hours incrementally over time. And the more we can increase our hours, the best for the community. So we ask ourselves, how can we maximize our availability and accessibility to patrons? And how are visits changing? And I'm very excited that we're able to expand our hours further coming this November 1st. And fourth, timely communication is valued by our community. We heard that clearly through the survey. And so we ask ourselves questions such as, what is the optimal frequency to receive SCCLD newsletter, our library systems newsletter? And this is the last slide of key takeaways. And this slide focuses on services. And in-person services is something that our community highly values. And so we ask ourselves, how do we successfully resume in-person programs such as children, but also other age groups? But that's something that is our focus to think about, since that is something the community certainly values. Next, expanded access to collection and events. How can we provide the most access to the collection and in-person events? And this will be, this is another takeaway from the survey that we will be planning around. Finally, or not finally, second to last, virtual events and hybrid model. As a hybrid model, during the pandemic, when we first closed, we quickly began offering our programs online, whereas until then, the programs were in person at the libraries. And the online program opportunity, the feedback in the survey was that those were very, very valued by the community. So the community has conveyed that they both value the online programs and in-person programs. So we want to keep both in mind as we move forward. So we ask ourselves, what does a hybrid model for adults and children's programs look like in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years? And then finally, curbside service was certainly something new developed during the pandemic, and also something that we received positive feedback on, interest for us to continue to offer this service. So we ask ourselves what days and times, including weekends, is key for optimal patron use. So those were the 3 slides about key takeaways. And we are really grateful for the wealth of data that patrons conveyed to us through the survey that has allowed us to form the 5 commitments so that we can serve the community to our best moving forward. So now I'm going to move on to another section of the presentation. And we wanted to mention that one of our libraries is getting an award, and that's the Morgan Hill Library, has been honored with the LATI 2021 Community Impact Award. It'll be presented on October 9th, so just in a couple days. And the library won this award for a few different reasons. One was that even while libraries were closed and continuing on after that, they offered free meals to kids ages 0 to 18 years old. They also completed the expansion of a new section of their library, a new children's activity room. And they also were recognized for offering a number of services that our other libraries in our library system also offer that have been very helpful for the community, such as the curbside services, online programs, the parking lot Wi-Fi, and promoting online services, supporting students and job seekers, and more. A lot of these being considered in the context of the response to how to help the community during the onset of the pandemic, and that these were wonderful things done by this library and also Los Altos Library. Next, October is National Depression Education and Awareness Month, and we're focusing on services to teens. So teens are invited to a virtual information and support group on 4 different days, October 2nd, 9th, 16th, and 23rd. And they can sign up at our website, sccld.org. Each session will be themed with a specific area of focus each week. Some topics include anxiety, automatic negative thoughts, and what happens to our bodies when we feel stress, depression, or worry. In addition, teens who register will receive a free wellness goodie bag from their library. And our librarians have also created a number of book lists about important teen issues like bullying, addiction, self-harm, and mental health. And for my final slide, I invite you to attend JPA meetings happening this month, our Joint Powers Authority Governing Board. The link to attend is on our website. On the 13th, we have the Finance Committee meeting, and the board meeting is on October 28th. And that concludes the report, and I will turn it over to Rose. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, let me start the slideshow. The puppet show was the first one, but our story times are outdoors now. And thanks to the History Museum, they're letting us use their little outdoor area. We had 3 scheduled. The second one just happened this week, and each week the attendance seems to grow. This week, I think we had over 70 people at the story time. And so we have a family story time, and then we have a Mandarin bilingual story time right after each other. So the community seems to really enjoy these outdoor programs. And we're looking for ways to continue them while the weather is still cooperating and is tolerable for the patrons and for our staff. So, but we're very excited to be able to offer that. Our statistics, you'll see again, they have gone down just a little bit as well. But I was looking at all the other libraries, specifically Cupertino and Milpitas. It seems to be trending that way at this time of the year. People are still getting back into the swing of things with school starting. And so we'll be looking closely at October to see how our numbers are, what the trend seems to be for those. But we're not the only library that seems to have a little bit of a decline in our statistics for items checked out, items checked in, and the patrons served at the library. But you'll see patrons served online does seem to be increasing. So we're seeing a trend, and that could be because of convenience. And I also, if you guys don't know Allison, her team is actually responsible for maintaining our website and for having all of our, her and her team were the ones who work on it. And so we're very grateful to have them, support our library in that sense. So thank you. Master Gardeners was our first in-person adult program, which happened last week. They had about 20 people participate. The capacity was at 30. So they were worried about having too many people. They still want to maintain a safe environment. So it was a perfect amount of people they had. Thanks to Lolly, the Science and Technology Week grab and go bags were very successful. They had over 250 bags distributed to the community. And the feedback I received from our librarians was there are actually a lot of dads and their kids coming in to grab these bags because of the theme. And so it's nice to see that change up. Some of the things going on at the library, our librarians are trying out a program suggestion box for patrons to just drop in program ideas that they want. And Brian and his team are leading the 3D printer. Lolly did purchase this 3D printer for the library, so they've had it out, and they have it running every once in a while for patrons to kind of see how it works. And Brian's working on maybe a program to implement it, but right now it's just on display. Excuse me. The farmers market on September 30th went really well. Almost 200 community members stopped by the GoGo Biblio, and they had some fun activities for them there. And the community center ribbon cutting, thank you, Jamie, and your team for inviting the library to be a part of it. We had a lot of families participate in the activities. They had the tent set up right outside the library with the GoGo Biblio, and the event itself went really well. So thank you, Jamie, and congratulations on the new community center. Today we had our iPhone Android Basics in-person class at the library. They were divided into 2 different times, and this was provided by an outside organization for us. And I want to thank the Friends for paying for this program. And just to highlight, we have one more storytime session next Tuesday. And we're actually working with the History Museum to see if we can add a couple more days. We're kind of taking it week by week just to see what the weather is like and how things are going. So it seems to be very successful. And then you'll see we have some ongoing fun fall things going on. These are for everybody to participate in. So if you're in the library, I encourage you all to participate. There's a Guess the Weight of the Pumpkin contest. The winner will actually get a 3D printed personalized nameplate. And on the right is a pumpkin decorating contest. So our staff actually decorated all these pumpkins, and we're allowing the community to vote on which pumpkin they like best. So it's been a fun program that was started at. They brought it over to Los Altos. And I wanted to also end. This was a very nice compliment from one of our patrons. This is a virtual film program started. Actually, was one of the first virtual programs when the pandemic hit and we were all working from home. And this patron has been part of the program since then. So I'll let you guys all read it while I have it up right now. And while I'm reading it, Allison did also did say that we're expanding our hours on November 1st. And for Los Altos, we're adding evening hours on Tuesday and Wednesday. So we're going to be open from 10 to 9 Tuesday and Wednesday, and 10 to 6 the rest of the days of the week. We still won't be open at this time. So I'll leave this up for a minute or so. So if people want to read it, it's a very nice compliment. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Commissioners, any questions? Vice Chair Wheeler,
No, I have no questions. Thank you, Roseanne Ellison.
Melvin, Ying, Commissioner Liu.
Sorry, I was just trying to find the unmute button. Yeah, well, first of all, thank you. I feel like finally I see the activities are now back on calendars, like those in-person ones. Do you need any help to promote those activities, or you think we're at the right, size of the group, or anything else you need some help?
Right now, like you said, I think we are at the right size of the group. We're starting small because, we still want to make sure it's safe for our patrons and for our staff. So the programs, we're keeping them at limited attendance. So thank you for the offer. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one question.
Sure.
So this is to Allison. In some of my reports, I referred to an earlier study that was a survey back in 2019. Is the cadence of these surveys every 2 years?
This time was a little, normally we did have a, and I forget if it was 2 years or 3 years, I'm sorry. But it was at a regular duration. And I forget if this one fell in that pattern or not, because the pandemic changed some of our timelines. But in general, we would, if it didn't, we'd be getting back into that normal timeline of I believe it's every 2 years. It might be every 3 years. I'd have to check on that.
And are the questions the same as for
I'm sorry?
And are the questions the same as for 2019? Because it'd be interesting to see the difference in terms
I'm not picking up your
I don't know. Is that Commissioner Carter? Are you trying to say something?
No, it's Nelvin.
Can you hear me?
Oh, Nelvin.
Nelvin, we can't hear Nelvin. It's not working, Nelvin. Something's wrong.
No.
Are we having problems tonight?
Commissioner Carter, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time.
And I think, no, I did catch Nelvin's question very barely though, but I think he was asking if it was the same types of questions as what was asked in 2019.
I see. Normally, the last 2 or 3 times, not including the most recent time, we've used a company that specializes in this. And it, whereas this survey, because of different circumstances, just this time we got out of the routine of that. But in the future, we would look to get back into our normal routine. So this particular one was more focused on not library services as normal, but library services that the adapted version of library services during the pandemic, and learning from that, because during the pandemic, we tried some new things we'd never tried before. Learning from that, which of those things the community wants us to keep going now that we have done online programs and curbside, things we haven't tried before, gauging where shall we go from here, and learning that the community really does enjoy both online programs and virtual programs, and they were very keen on the curbside service. So this one had a similar but slightly different slant. But as we get back to normal services again, we would be getting back to our normal type of survey, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. And it does bring to mind, I mean, I loved your presentation, looking at what you're doing with Book Dash and the whole hybridization of the library experience based on what we've experienced in the last 2 years. Which brings us into our next topic, the commission reorganization. So I've been the chair of this esteemed body for the last 2 years during, I think, some incredible times that we all have lived through it in our own ways, and it's been just amazing. But every year we reorganize and select a new chair or vice chair or not. But the purpose of the chair, or what I've tried to do, is to keep the meetings going and get us out of here at a reasonable time, and trying to, help with the cadence and figure out parliamentary stuff. And it's been a blast. But anyway, this is the point in the meeting where we take, I guess, Jamie, I'll leave it to you in terms of how we should set about picking a chair and vice chair.
No, thank you. So as Pierre mentioned, it's on a year term, and so it would start, we would actually switch, and the new chair would take over the kind of chairing duties this meeting, and would serve a one-year term through September of next year, 2022. And as Pierre mentioned, the chair really is in charge of running the meetings, making sure that commissioners have the opportunity to share their thoughts and discussion, and in addition, making sure that if there is public comment, that is taken as well. And so we can take the chair position first and can open it up for nominations, and then we will go towards the vice chair position, which, as all positions, there is a backup. So if the chair is unable to chair a meeting, the vice chair would take on those duties. And in special circumstances, which we have had this before, where the chair and vice chair are both unable to make a meeting, we can have another commissioner step in to make sure that the meeting is run accordingly. But we can go ahead and start with the chair position and open it up for nominations.
So I want to
Jamie?
nominate, I was going to nominate Commissioner or Vice Chair Wheeler for the position. She's served ably as vice chair, and I think it's important that this is a rotating position, and the vice chair is in a great slot to back up, watch, observe, and sort of do it to it. So anyway, I'm nominating Vice Chair Wheeler for chair.
And Carol, did you have a question?
Pardon?
Did you have a question, Carol?
No, I was going to nominate Pierre, but I'm very happy to support Freddie's candidacy too.
Okay.
You can nominate me if you'd like. It's okay.
I don't want to put you guys crosswise. I'll nominate you, okay? I nominate Pierre.
I do have to caveat it though, if Freddie wants to do it, because it is a,
Okay.
it is a, for me,
I
it
think
is a
that's good
different,
decision.
yes.
Okay. Any other nominations for the chair position? Okay, so we do have Vice Chair Wheeler and Chair Bedard as nominations. We will go ahead and
Can we have some discussion on this?
You can, absolutely.
Okay, because I want to ask Freddie if she's interested in becoming the chair.
Yes, I would be happy to serve as chair.
Oh, okay.
And
that's pretty much my own that would be my criteria, is that Freddie would want to do it. It's something you definitely want to do.
Okay.
You need to want to
Fine.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope that we would all take our turn.
Absolutely. Any other questions or discussion comments? Okay, so I will go ahead and go through and with each of the commissioners to see who they would like to vote for the chair position. I'll start with Chair Bedard. Who would you vote for?
Vice Chair Wheeler.
Okay, and how about Commissioner G?
Would vote for Vice Chair Wheeler.
Okay. And Commissioner Liu?
Yeah, I would vote for Vice Chair Wheeler.
Okay. And Commissioner Dixit?
Well, I'm happy to vote for both. But if that's not allowed, I'm certainly happy to vote for Vice Chair Wheeler as well.
Okay. And Commissioner Carter?
I'll vote for Wheeler.
Okay. And Vice Chair Wheeler, who are you going to vote for?
How embarrassing. I'll vote for myself.
Okay,
Good
so
for you.
it is unanimous that we have Vice Chair Wheeler becoming Chair Wheeler for the next term through September of 2022. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we will,
Congratulations.
yes. So we will go ahead and move on to the Vice Chair position. And I will, as I mentioned before, this will be the backup position and support to the chair position, opening it up to nominations.
I'd like to nominate Nelvin G.
I was thinking that maybe we should ask if there are any volunteers.
This is a conscription.
I was going to second the nomination for Commissioner G.
Okay,
But,
so we have a nomination for Commissioner G. Are there other nominations?
Any volunteers?
I promise it's not scary. And you would have me and obviously other commissioners always to support you as well.
I think I might very well end up proving the repeater principle.
Oh, no. Oh, no, no.
And I have to be here for 4 years.
Okay. Going once, going twice on other nominations for vice chair. And I guess the other question, Commissioner G, would you like to accept the nomination for vice chair?
I reluctantly accept.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Okay. So I think we have Commissioner G as the sole nomination, and he has accepted. So I will go through the commissioners. Now, Chair Wheeler, would you vote for Commissioner G?
Yes.
And Commissioner Bedard?
Yes.
And Commissioner Liu?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
Commissioner Dixit?
Yes.
And Commissioner G?
Can I abstain?
You can, yes, but it does pass, and you are now officially the vice chair serving through September 2022. Congratulations, and we can now turn the meeting over to Chair Wheeler and Vice Chair G.
Aha. Okay. Let me get the agenda up. Hang on.
I have my copy up. I've got this big blue line right after the last item I had to deal with.
Yep, the next one on the agenda, Chair Wheeler, is have to retrain my brain.
The work plan. The work plan.
It is the work plan, yes.
Okay. So, oh, my computer is just lovely, lovely, lovely. Let me,
And Chair Wheeler, I can share my screen if that would help.
that would be great. That would be great. My computer has decided to do one of those colorful little There we go. There we go, fortunately. So the work plan, we all know we need to update our each subcommittee needs to update its work plan. So the futures is, can you tell me, Jamie, which one is this is the first one, the infrastructure is the first one on the work plan, as I recall.
Correct.
And in our infrastructure subcommittee meeting last week, we discussed having to get this work plan updated, and each of us do have plans to take the projects that we worked on and have a draft that we can then finalize to get the infrastructure work plan updated. So can we go to the next one? That's the improved services. Pierre, would you like to talk about the work plan for the improved services subcommittee? Pierre?
Yes, I'm here, and we did turn something in. I turned in a presentation. I don't know if Jamie has it. She could share it, but I can show people what we did.
Yep, and the presentation is included in the items. So we have the work plan.
Oh, okay.
And then the presentation follows after that as well. So we can get to that part. And I'm looking and I realized that I mistakenly forgot to take out Commissioner Chan's name.
Sure,
so
but
we can adjust that as well.
I mean, the slide that I put together is, it basically will go overlay the spreadsheet. So if you go to that really quick.
If I'm not mistaken, each of these subcommittees has 2 deliverables, right? An updated work plan for the following year, and also kind of the status and progress that we've made this year, correct?
Yeah,
Correct.
let me bring up the slide I put together, and I'll just show you guys how I put it together just in one. We got it together in one slide or 2 slides, or no, 1 slide for services. And we broke it up basically into current and futures. And, you know, with input from Rose and about the upcoming services presentation that Allison just briefed us on, we sort of melded that into the 1 slide that we were doing.
And is this a draft of what you would present to the city council come November 2nd?
Well, I was hoping that everybody would have 1 slide that covered their stuff that they could present, but that was the thought then. I'm not, Commissioner or Chair Wheeler needs to figure out how she wants to,
That seems to me to be a very,
reasonable.
Very good way of doing it, for each subcommittee to have a slide with what they have done and what they intend to do. Because I think this is the deliverable that we're going to give in advance. They can read it. We can discuss, but if they have questions, I think it'll be the basis for the dialogue between us and the council.
So the services is done, but I mean, it wouldn't be that, what we discovered doing the services one is that we've stayed pretty well on track.
Okay.
We didn't really, we're actually staying pretty faithful to our plan.
Okay. Okay. Can you scroll down, Jamie, to the awareness? Is that what you presented? Is that what we did last year?
Yes.
Okay. So, Jamie, can you make this available? Is this something that we can edit? Is this a document we can edit, or do you have to edit?
So I created the PDF, but it is a PowerPoint, which I can make available to the commission. I'm happy if everyone sends their edits to me, I can put those in the document, or if the subcommittees would prefer to do the edits on their own, I'm happy to provide it either way.
Okay.
I'd like to make a suggestion, and that is, let's use this as the template. Let's have each subcommittee do their jobs in terms of filling it out and submit individual pages to Jamie, who can then consolidate into a single document. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense.
And Jamie has a PowerPoint.
So Jamie, can you send us the PowerPoint?
Yes, I can.
Super. Okay. And then we can update these with you know, what we have done and what we plan to do.
That would be perfect. And I was actually going to say, for the November 2nd meeting, we're about a month, a little less than a month out. It would be helpful to have those, and let me know if this timeline is doable, is so that we can have those submitted to me, and so we could finalize the document by October 21st. That's roughly 2 weeks from now.
That sounds good to me. Nelvin, what about you?
Yeah, I think we can manage that.
Okay, Carol?
Yeah.
Okay. Ying? I can't see everybody. Ying, does that sound doable for you? Yes?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And Shavari, that good for you?
Yes, I think so. I would continue to work with Mr. Bedard, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
For awareness, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we will update this document, and we will update the work plan that is our working document that we had that was on the screen before. Okay. All right. So then, excuse me, I've got to get this again.
Just
Any
a
other,
quick,
excuse me, any other discussion on the work plan?
another work plan thing I saw, Julie just joined, but in the,
Oh, great.
yeah, so I think Jamie, you probably need to upgrade her to, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, they did. Thank you. Sorry, I'm late. Apologize.
No problem. We're happy to have you. So we were just talking about the work plan and updating the work plan, Julie. Okay.
I was on for a bit, so I heard yes, and
Okay.
I'm in agreement.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. So then, and is there any other discussion on work plan, or do we all know our assignments and we're all good to go? Okay, super. So the next item on the agenda is the presentation by the Futures Subcommittee on the path forward for the Los Altos Library. So Nelvin, I turn it over to you.
All right, I will share my screen. Let me see how to do that. Share screen.
Nelvin, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
All right, I'll try to speak up and be a little closer to my laptop then. Let me put this in presentation mode. You guys had a preview of this in our last commission meeting, so I will try to go through this quickly. Basically, where we end up on this report is that we're asking the Library Commission to take a vote, and that vote is related to asking the NCLA to restart their efforts around a redeveloped main library. And I'll walk through the logic of why we're making that request. We start off with the mission statement. So we ground ourselves in terms of what the Santa Clara County Library District is about, and that is a forum for promoting knowledge, ideas, and cultural enrichment with an emphasis on free access to materials and services. I think Pierre, Freddie, and I both were at the ribbon cutting ceremony for the new community center, and there were certainly a lot of wonderful conference rooms that have been meeting rooms that have opened up as a result of that. My understanding, however, is that those rooms are really available for rent. And with the library, what our rooms are essentially resources to be used by the community if it's reserved. So that's something that we'll dive into a little bit when we compare the Los Altos Library relative to other libraries within our district. A little background in terms of the libraries themselves. Our main branch was basically built in 1964. The Woodland branch was built in 1975 and was funded by a bond measure that also at that time expanded the main library. As you can see the various sizes of the facilities and the events that took place in terms of major renovations, the last one being around the 1990 timeframe. Also, we'll point out that Los Altos is unique in that we're the only city within the Santa Clara County Library District that has 2 branches. This large matrix basically just goes to show that we have perhaps the oldest library within the district. As I mentioned before, the Los Altos Main Library was built much earlier, but the last expansion took place in 1990. Campbell has a relatively old library, but they passed a bond measure in 2018 that would allow them to remodel that facility. The other thing that's worth mentioning here is that we have a very healthy circulation and gate count. So we're neither the largest nor the smallest in that. We were talking about the surveys, and also there was a needs assessment that was conducted by NCLA back in 2018, I believe, that identified the need for an additional 12,000 square feet at a minimum, with that square footage being allocated to meeting rooms, study rooms, children's space, and backroom operations. At that time, there was an estimate of about $40 to $60 million. NCLA created a task force that essentially had a budget to go out for outreach and start developing resources for a capital campaign and bond measure. Ultimately, those plans were shelved because of events at that time. There was the beginning of the pandemic. Foothill College was also planning on putting a large bond measure for the election. And I will point out that despite all that's happened since 2020, the need that we've identified remains. A number of needs were identified: tutoring space, children's programs, quiet space, etc. And the technology has changed. I think Allison's presentation talked a bit about kind of a needs assessment, a survey of patrons and what they would like to see in the future and which ones to continue. So there's a lot to take in. And for that reason, we're going to ask you to consider asking the NCLA to restart their efforts. On this page, we're comparing meeting spaces. So Milpitas, you'll see that They have 60,000 square foot in total for their facility, and they have 2 medium-sized study rooms and 2 smaller rooms, along with a large community meeting room with 120 person capacity. Saratoga, roughly 50,000 square feet, a medium-sized meeting room and a small one, and a large community meeting room. And we can go forth from here. Even Morgan Hill, for example, being one of the newest libraries in our district, they have a large community meeting room that houses a community room that can handle over 90 people. And the nice thing about that is they can split it into a large and small room. A new children's activity area that has an adjoining multi-purpose room. This multi-purpose room also has kitchen facilities. Allison talked about how Morgan Hill, I believe, is receiving something where an award for the fact that they maintained the free meals for children. And this new multi-purpose room will help them continue to do so. Gilroy, at least 1 meeting room and a community room, whereas in Los Altos, we're really talking about the orchard room. So a number of questions have come up in the course of our thinking through this. You know, the Los Altos is changing. It's not just the pandemic. We're going to introduce some higher density affordable housing projects. The question is, what is the right footprint? Do we continue to have 2 branches or not? And my personal opinion is once you've established a footprint, the 2 branches, you'll keep it, because unless there's a compelling need to consolidate, you'll want to basically take the 2 and think about how you would want to use one versus the other. But these are questions that we really can't answer, and therefore it would be good to have the NCLA take this on, because they would have the resources to essentially try to figure out what makes sense, how to prioritize. One of the questions is exactly how do we go about funding a redeveloped library? Do we combine it with something else? When should we go ahead and try to request those funds from our taxpayers? So a lot of things have to happen in order to do so. And therefore, you know, we're recommending that we consider asking the NCLA to reconstitute their task force, to develop this vision and strategy, to essentially, through their outreach and canvassing efforts, figure out what's the right way of going forward. And that's the presentation.
Thank you. Questions? Do any of the
I
commissioners?
think that's an extremely interesting and comprehensive report.
I second.
A good
that.
report, even I understood.
Yes, very good. So there are no questions? So Nelvin, do you want to?
Yes, I would like to motion that we forward a request to NCLA that they reconstitute their redevelopment task force. And we can give them specific reasons as to why. The main reason being is that the need that we identified with the earlier task force remains, and if anything, has changed somewhat given the fact that Los Altos will be changing with the introduction of high density housing.
Okay. Pierre, you have your hand up.
Yeah, for some reason I can't see myself on video, but
Let me stop sharing.
oh, that's okay. The one thing I was going to say is the and I wish Cindy were here, but the NCLA looked to give us, the Library Commission, more leeway for the oh, well, Diane's here, so she could probably talk to this. But I know in my speaking with Cindy, it was like, I know we're going, this intends to go to the NCLA, but they were like coming to us or looking somewhere else to put it besides the setup they have. Further, they've been operating without government governors, doing their thing fairly independently for the last year after they were dissolved by the NCLA. And some of them have liked that. So those are a couple nuances I
Are you
could bring
talking
up.
about the task force members doing their, I'm not quite understanding what you're saying. I'm sorry.
The NCLA did not want to continue the task force because they didn't want to really encumber the task force with any governmental things. Brown Act, minutes, support from staff, all those things. So I'll just be aware of parallel efforts that are ongoing
Certainly.
as you
So,
take it to the NCLA. Before you take it to the NCLA, that's all I'm suggesting.
yeah, I think we've had discussions with Cindy, and it seemed like they were waiting for us to make a request.
Okay.
That
Well
the
then,
suspension was because there was nothing left to do once they decided not to go forward with the bond measure. And it just seems like this would be an appropriate time to ask them to fire things back up, because we do eventually want to get to a redeveloped library. Now, my understanding is that the city commission acts as advisors only to the city, whereas NCLA actually has some purse strings. Is that true?
Nelvin, you're fading.
Yeah, I was thinking that the library commission acts as advisors only, whereas NCLA actually has some funding authority. Is that correct?
Diane, you have your hand up.
Yeah, if it's appropriate, I think I have a suggestion for you, and I didn't hear the feedback Pierre heard, but I can imagine maybe what some of the background was. So the task force was instituted under the NCLA specifically because they have the taxation authority and the ability to float any kind of taxation member, bond measure, property tax, whatever, to the communities of Los Altos and Los Altos Hills. So for example, each city council could only float a bond measure to tax, their own residents. So that's why it was instituted under the NCLA. Having said that, having worked on the task force for 2 years, what may be the desire of the NCLA is to take things up through a level of completion of proposal of what a renovated library would be, and then bring it under the NCLA at the point you're near to a bond measure. So I can say, having worked on it, there is a lot of background work that needs to be done before you're even within sight of when you can put anything on the ballot. And that may be something that you hear from the NCLA, that they really would like the Library Commission to take it through needs assessment, architectural reviews, whatever, community input, etc. And my suggestion is to consider that as a role of the Library Commission. I mean, I can go into more detail, but I don't want to take a lot of time on that.
But I do think that's really worth a discussion, because I think the logistics of how that would happen is something that we need to discuss.
And I think it's appropriate to ask to have that discussion with the NCLA. It's just a thought I had about an alternative way to organize this that still keeps residents of both cities involved, yet doesn't necessarily burden things in the way, we weren't really burdened under the NCLA, but trying to get that group together in a timely fashion, candidly, was difficult. You may be able to move much faster with it under the auspices of the Library Commission.
So Nelvin, what do you propose at this point with Diane's feedback? What would you like to do?
I think we need to have a discussion with the NCLA because the Library Commission, as currently constituted, really doesn't have the monetary means to go forth and do the surveys, start essentially any discussions with architects. And if the NCLA had something in place already that they essentially turned off just recently, it seems to me it'll be easier for them to start back up again. But we ought to have a discussion with them, see where their heads are at.
I agree. I agree with that. So,
This is Julie. Can I ask a question?
yes, please.
Yeah, so I agree with what Nelvin said. I guess my question is if we're, and it's just more of a point of order, if we're as a commission looking to, pursue this avenue, is this something that we should alert the city council to? And
I think we would have to, because, we have no budget. Any money that would be appropriated to do any of this by the commission would have to be approved by the city council. I mean, we have no budget. So Melvin's completely correct. We can't commission a survey. We can't engage with an architect. And frankly, the ability of the city to do surveys with its own staff is not optimal.
so I guess
it needs a professional company to do surveys.
So I guess my question, and perhaps Nelvin, this is something we can discuss in the Futures Committee, is when we would engage with that. Do we want to do some legwork on our own and then do that? I just want to make sure that we're thoughtful in that respect, but maybe we need more information in terms of what exactly is the NCLA's, expected role.
Yeah, I feel like I need to do a little more homework then, because we had heard from Cindy that
Nelvin, I can't hear you.
I said I'd like to do a little more homework. At a minimum, reach out to Cindy Hill, because our last discussion was that they're waiting to hear from us. And maybe the mood has changed. So I'd like to reach out to Cindy with everyone's blessings here.
Okay, Pierre?
I was only going to say you should really take my comment as cautionary. I don't think that should stop us from moving forward with the fine recommendation that you've put together. I was only trying to add a little more seasoning to the situation, so from what I know.
Okay.
But
well,
I think we should, I wouldn't let that stall us out as a group.
well, let me see if they may be receptive. I'll test the waters with Cindy. Okay.
Okay. So do you want to just table your motion for the moment, and we can come back next meeting once you've had an opportunity to, do some research on what really the NCLA wants?
Yeah, let me do a little pinging on the NCLA. I'll
Okay.
report back at the next meeting, and then we can decide how to move forward. I retract my motion.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I think it's an excellent proposal, and I do support it. I just think you're wise to figure out what the lay of the land is before you proceed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I do have a question, if I may. Can we? I'm sorry. Is that okay?
Yes, please. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like this is a thing we have been we've been talking about back and forth a few times. Can we have a little bit clarity in terms of exactly, we want Nelvin to explore as the next step? Maybe Nelvin is, crystal clear, but I may be not, because as far as I remember, I think Cindy mentioned before we put the last effort, when Cindy was still around as a library commissioner, we're just about to kind of term up. I thought the funding to do the survey and some other activities were secured, but that was not through the city of Los Altos. I thought that was either through the foundation or NCLA. But right now, I'm trying to understand exactly when Melvin said, retract the motion, then what's exactly what we're going to get before we can put this for a motion again.
Melvin, do you want to explain to Yen what your next steps are?
Yeah, I retracted the motion because it seems that the NCLA may or may not be receptive to reconstituting their redevelopment task force. So I am going to ping Cindy and find out if the what I perceive to be that they're waiting for us is indeed correct or not. And if it is that they are waiting for us and that they're willing to do it, then I will come back to the commission at the next meeting and make the same motion. And we can vote at that point. But I think it sounds to me that the mechanics of how we get this off the ground may be a little bit more difficult than just simply asking them to restart their efforts. So I'll do the homework and come back and report to the team.
Okay. Diane, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, so just a couple more comments. I'm actually really pleased you're pursuing this. I have to say, if you would have talked to me a year ago, I still had heartache from the fact we had to close it down, and it was mostly COVID. But I have to say, people were getting kind of cold feet because of some of the results of other bond measures. And you've exactly hit on some of the sticky points about how to organize something like this, and funding is a big part of it. You can use NCLA dollars. You can come to Friends of the Library if it's a specific request for a survey or something. You can go to Lolly. And I would suggest when you talk to representatives of NCLA that you include one of the elected officials as well as Cindy. So Sally would be ideal. And maybe ask some of those questions about availability of funding for NCLA. As you discussed it, I realized that was one of the early benefits we got from being under NCLA was a source of funding, though Lolly and Friends did contribute to. So good luck. It would be great to see this started back up again.
Thank you, Diane.
Oh.
Yen, you have your hand up again, I believe.
Yeah, sorry. Because I felt like what's the downside of it if we put a motion today and get it through? Because are we afraid that the NCLA would say no to this proposal? Or I'm trying to understand what kind of clarification we're going to get, because I heard probably at least a couple of times or every time, we met with Cindy, Cindy seemed to be excited and be waiting for us to present this plan in front of NCLA. I'm just trying to wait for another month. Is it really sort of worthwhile where we just push it through, and then, the only downside would be they would say no, or if they say something, we're going to change our plan, because I don't know what kind of room for us to change. Yeah. That's kind of all I'm trying to say. Just I feel like last time we were almost ready to push this, through our committee, library commission. But now it seems like we have to wait for another month. I'm just trying to see if this one more month is just getting a green light from Cindy herself, or there's something else, and whether or not it's really all needed. That's kind of all I'm trying to say.
Melvin,
I think Pierre has his hand up.
Okay. I just want to second what Commissioner Liu is saying. I would see no downside in voting for this tonight and getting it, because it is an excellent presentation and it forces the issue. which I
Yeah.
think is going to need to be forced one way or the other.
I understand.
So
So let
that's
me
my
rephrase my
2
motion.
cents.
I motion that we, as a library commission, take a vote in terms of whether we are in favor of a renewed redevelopment effort. And I will do the homework to make sure that however we go about requesting it, that we ensure the success of those efforts, that there will be a receiver that is receptive to taking on the task.
Any seconds?
Well, I want to make a comment.
Because
Before
right now
saying-
we're not certain whether the NCLA is willing to take on the task, so I've got to do that homework.
Yeah, but I feel like the purpose of our motion or our proposal is not necessarily, they have to, we can discuss this and they may have some feedback and then we may adjust our plan or wording or, whatever the next step, they give us some advice. But I feel like the motion in the past, to my understanding, was we'll have a representative to present this to NCLA and then make a recommendation that, they basically reorganize or resume the new library development effort or something like that. So I thought like our motion is about having someone to present this plan in front of them as a motion rather than having them to agree to our proposal. That's the difference. I don't know if I said it clearly or not. Would the people, so I think maybe let me put this way. Would the people agree, like all our library commissioners agree to present, the plan in front of NCLA, or people would feel more comfortable if we get some, inside information, if I'm Cindy, and that they would agree, then we present.
So could I just make a comment? I think maybe we could entertain this motion, something to the effect of a motion that we make a presentation to the NCLA requesting that they reconstitute, reform their task force to redevelop the library. And then they can accept or decline. Or they can say, yes, we will do it, but we want your cooperation to do this, that, and the other.
I would second what you said. Yeah, I would second that motion. Yeah, if that's a formal motion.
Does that make sense to you, Melvin?
Mm-hmm.
And is that okay with you?
That is okay with me.
Okay. So do we want to think of that as having been made? That was a motion that was made and seconded by Ying? Okay. Jamie?
Yep, lots of conversations, but I think we've landed on that motion and second. I will go ahead and start with Commissioner Dixit.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
Commissioner Liu.
Yes.
Commissioner Crane.
Yes.
Commissioner Bedard.
Yes.
Vice Chair G.
Yes.
And Chair Wheeler.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously.
Okay. Okay. Any more discussion, questions? Okay. Then the next item of business is informational items. And our first person is we shall receive information from Friends of the Library. Diane?
All right. So just a quick update on our book sale last weekend. It was our first long weekend book sale that we've had since February of 2020. So it was quite exciting for us. And results were really good. As you know, our primary method of raising funds is through book sales. And our total sales were close to $11,000 in gross revenue, which is just a little bit below what we used to get during our fall sales. So surprising, happy news for us that we were able to realize that amount. And of that amount, about $1,500 are value of books that we gave to school teachers in our community. So you might not know this, but one of our programs that we introduced about 4 years ago is called Books for Schools. And we're working to address the problem that many school teachers do not have their own classroom libraries or the funding, actually, to collect the books that they want to have in their classrooms. So qualified teachers, which would be any teacher in a public school throughout Santa Clara County, is able to come to us and pick out the books they want, and we give them to them for free as, you know, sort of a way of delivering on our mission to improve literacy. So we were quite excited about that result too, is to be able to give that value of books to the teachers. Our next sale schedule is unknown at this point. We'd like to have it in January, and we'd also like to hold our first sale in the new community center. And so we're waiting anxiously, Jamie smiles, to see when we can actually book our dates, and we'll look forward to having our first book sale there. Many of us have gone on the tour. It looks fantastic, so we're excited to do that. And the final update I have is, since we met last month, there's a task force within Friends of the Library that's spent a lot of time looking at our facilities options, working with city staff, looking at Woodland, and really trying to evaluate the right path forward for Friends. This project obviously isn't quite as fun as figuring out and having book sales, but progress is being made. I don't really have any updates for you besides there's a lot of hours and work going into it. City has been very cooperative and supportive, and possibly, you know, within the next few weeks, we'll have some progress and an approach there on that. Any questions?
Questions, anyone?
So I had a question, and perhaps I missed it. The Friends is looking at Woodland?
So the City Council in August asked Friends of the Library to look at Woodland, or locating our workroom and storage closer to the Woodland branch as opposed to near the main library branch. So we had gone to City Council looking for an extension of the lease that we've held, actually a license that we've held to use land at Civic Center, and we've been there for the last, in our current location, 2 years, total 40 years. And the request that was, we consider Woodland as an alternative. And a group was put together to work with city staff to evaluate that. Any other questions?
So, and I apologize. So I guess what role, if any, would the Library Commission have in that? Because I know that, Freddie, you had been looking at, you know, possibly expanding Woodland to have a quiet room, or?
Yes, actually, Julie, at the last commission meeting, the infrastructure committee, subcommittee presented that in view of the city council's direction to look at Woodland, we thought the expansion area certainly was large enough, more than large enough, to accommodate the Friends. And so it, you know, we proposed that the expansion for the Woodland branch be limited essentially to the adult quiet room that we needed. We could have in that 4,400 square foot expansion, we could have a very nice quiet room for adults, and then the balance of the square footage could go to the Friends for their needs. And we looked at the square footage that they occupy, the Friends occupy on the Civic Center campus now, and added the fact that the request was to double the size of the portable building, and there was still, you know, a very large amount of square footage left over, shall we say. In other words, the 4,400 square foot, if it were to be shared, would be more than adequate for an adult quiet room for Woodland, and then whatever needs the Friends had. So that was sent to, Diane put me in touch with Suzanne Epstein, and we sent her the plans. We actually, as part of the subcommittee report, but we actually have a meeting with the Friends because they have a lot of questions. We have a meeting on the 13th of October to answer questions and just to have a discussion. This obviously, I think we should recognize, is not the, that's not the solution. I'm just going to say this outright. This is not the solution the Friends would prefer. Okay, but you know, it's there. We can, I think, discuss it at our meeting on the 13th, and then just see what happens. You know, things are up in the air, and until the city and the Friends resolve where they're going to be, then it's just a proposal. It's just an option that's out there. Okay.
So what will the library commission's role in that be, or is there one?
You know, well, it would depend, Julie. Okay, it would depend on a lot of things, on how, where the funding came for that expansion. You know, we've always talked about having it as a community fundraising activity. But, you know, those things are all up in the air. They're all up in the air.
Yeah, so I guess my request would be that we have some involvement in the decision. Doesn't mean that we will, but it would seem that we should.
I think we can, you know, I think our role as advisory is certainly what we would do. We would provide proposals. We would, you know, provide options and ideas and suggestions for how things could get done. And you know, I think that's what we've been doing. We do have a meeting with the NCLA that Cindy has arranged. We are on their agenda, but it is a discussion, and it's really just a discussion with the NCLA of Woodland as, you know, if you want to tie it to Nelvin's presentation, the Futures Committee, you know, it's not in isolation. It's really not a proposal that can be looked at in isolation. It has to be looked at as, here's the library as a whole, what makes sense to do or not do, and then timing. So is that vague enough for you?
Yes, it is.
I think I just want to emphasize that all of this is aspirational, is the way I think we should put it. It's aspirational. The need that was addressed for the Woodland expansion was for an adult quiet space. Okay. And if we could achieve that, and that alone somehow, that would actually solve the problem that was identified. The rest of it was, oh, and wouldn't it be nice to also do this? Okay.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I guess as part of the Futures Committee, the thought is that Woodland had, you know, we were looking at opportunities for Woodland, and I would just like to be involved.
Absolutely.
We have done so much, and I think this commission should be involved in those decisions.
I agree with you. And I really, you know, this Brown Act thing, you know, is very difficult because they are very much melded together, the two, because yeah, it does need to be discussed, and we can discuss it in special session or we can discuss it at the commission meetings. But I absolutely agree. It's something that the entire commission should be involved in. And there you go.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Thank you very much, Diane. Appreciate it very much. We do not have Cindy here, so there's no NCLA Lolly update this commission meeting. Jamie, we would get your information from the city staff.
Absolutely. So the first one on my report is the Los Altos Community Center. I was happy to see quite a few familiar faces in person at our ribbon cutting ceremony this past Saturday. I will be honest and say that the opening and the ribbon cutting ceremony was all consuming. And so, but it was a beautiful day. And we were very glad to celebrate the opening of the community center, which we were able to do to the public this past Monday on October 4th. Our tours have been completely full and have been going very, very well. We've heard nothing but really positive comments from the attendees at the ribbon cutting ceremony and all of the community members that have taken the opportunity to take a guided tour. I will say, having alternated between myself and our new recreation supervisor, Mary Jo Price, we are actually the two that have been leading the guided tours, and it's been so much fun to engage with those and just to show off the beautiful new asset to the community. So we're really excited to continue to open up slowly but surely. I think just as any moving into a new house, we're still working out all of the making things as best we can. And so it's a continued transition process, but we're excited that we have that opportunity to do that. And then continuing with our fall programs, we're slowly, now that the community center is open, we're slowly transitioning programs here to the center. Our fall season actually started in September, and so the community center was not quite ready or open at that point, but we are slowly transitioning some of those programs that have been happening at other sites, like Grant or Garden House. We're slowly transitioning some of those to the community center. And then we're continuing to still offer some virtual options as well. And all of our class information is on our city website. And then we continue to have the virtual recreation center and information about the COVID-19 vaccine implementation as well on the city's website. So a lot going on. It's been really exciting, and it's a work in progress, but really excited that we got the opportunity to cut the ribbon and are now open to the public. So it is open, and if you're wanting to have a place to sit or meet, the community center is available.
You did a great job. Your whole team did a great job with the ribbon cutting ceremony and staffing everything. It was very well done, and a beautiful, beautiful community center. It was a little hot though.
I will say that was the only con to that day, and I was the kind of the stage manager on the side for the ceremony portion. And I have I chose to wear flats that day. I have some very interesting tan lines because of standing in the sun that much. But the only downside was how hot it was. But once we got inside, it was lovely.
It was great. It was wonderful inside. Yeah. So kudos to you, all of you. You did a great job, and it's beautiful.
Thank you. I will share that with the team. It was definitely a village that took to put that on. So thank you.
Any questions?
Actually, for the a quick question, not library so much, but the community center. Did I hear you mention that the library, sorry, the community center now is open to the public? And then
so we are open for guided tours, and if anyone or any friends, family, community members, we're continuing those tours next week. And the community center's current transition hours for operation is Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so during that time, the facility is open, the lobby space. Lots of opportunities to sit, bring your laptop, chat with friends. So we are open to the public now. And what we've been sharing on the tours, this is the first time Recreation has opened our doors to in-person since March of 2020. So this is definitely a big step for us. But these are our transition hours at this point, and then we will work to expand them hopefully relatively soon. But yeah, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5 at this point.
Okay, but has not yet start taking reservations for events and other things, right?
At this time, we are currently moving programs. As far as reservations or holding events, we're currently working to get our fee schedule for the community center approved by City Council at the end of this month. And so we're hoping to take reservations very, very soon, once that occurs at the end of this month.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Nope, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so we move on to the commissioners' reports. The first one on the agenda is the infrastructure subcommittee, and that is Nelvin, Carol, and myself. And I think, I think we have just two things to report. We decided that we would work on trying to improve some of the problem features of Woodland. For example, the door to the patio, which is very, very noisy and has been subject of complaints. So we're just going to try to identify discrete things that we could improve in Woodland until there is an opportunity to move forward on the expansion in whatever form it becomes. I've already reported that we requested a meeting with the Friends, or requested a communication with the Friends. We sent the slide deck to Suzanne Epstein. We had a response, and we have a meeting on the 13th just to have a discussion, answer questions, etc. Nelvin, do you have anything else to report on the infrastructure subcommittee?
No, I haven't at this time.
Carol?
One of the things that we talked about was parking and having timed limits for parking around the library. And I believe I mentioned to you that I spoke to one of the officers, one of the police officers, who said they would have no problem patrolling that area because, excuse me, they already patrol the area around the police station. So there would be no enforcement problem if that change is made.
Okay. And question to Jamie, is there any update on where that stands with the city? That proposal that was made?
No, absolutely. I will be able to, let me actually check in. I had a few emails out, and actually hearing Carol's conversation as well actually helps a great deal. And I will be able to bring a more thorough report at the next meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. The Services Subcommittee is next for a report.
Services is Mr. Bedard and myself, right?
And Julie.
Okay.
We met. We went over our work plan and submitted, a joint proposal for the work plan presentation.
Okay. Anything else, Julie?
I would just add, I think Shavari had some very good and interesting ideas in terms of expanding some services around, well, Shavari, I'll let you do it around, I believe it was, I'm not going to say it correctly, but
I'm waiting for you to say it.
yes, so Native Indian speakers. And I know
Yeah.
that that's not right because there are so many languages. So I apologize if I said that incorrectly.
No, not at all. You were on the right track. I was just wanting to acknowledge actually the help that Mr. Bedard and Ms. Baiza gave me. And my proposal was simply to have a little more awareness and presence of a multicultural theme in the library around the time of the festivals that we have. Since, piggybacking on to what was said earlier, that the density of different ethnicities in our area is increasing, and simply because we are becoming more populated. So I thought perhaps this was something that I could champion. And we have everything available already in the library. We have so many books in our catalog that are in different languages and about different cultures. I just thought perhaps having a display at the right time might just encourage people. So with a discussion with Rose, we have been able to find a week around the festival of Diwali, which is the National Festival of Lights for India. In that week, we can put up a table displaying books and some clay lamps and perhaps some coloring pages for children. And I'm very excited about that. So,
wonderful. That
yeah.
sounds great. That's such a great suggestion. Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay. The Awareness Subcommittee. So we are continuing to do the monthly Lolly Town Crier ad. And Carol, do you want to report? Rose gave us an assignment and you aced it. Do you want to report?
Well, Rose told us that Stanford University, most of the university, is part of our territory to make aware of programs and events that our library is staging. So I determined that there is a newsletter that reaches all employees in all departments of Stanford University. It's called the Stanford Report. And so they will be a good target for announcements of whatever events or speakers, etc., that the library wants to make known.
Yeah. So, for our speakers, like the artificial intelligence speaker from Google, I'm sure that would have been in tremendous interest to a lot of people on the Stanford campus. So it's a great find. It's a way to advertise to that it's the unincorporated part of the county. And Rose first gave us the assignment of this, try to find ways to do PSAs and that. And then when we looked at the map, which she had to show at least me how to navigate because I couldn't figure it out. It appeared that so much of that territory was Stanford University. And then we thought, oh my God, we're gonna have to go to department after department. But Carol found the main newsletter that goes to everybody.
Right.
So that was a great find. And Rose has all the contact information to get in touch with them to get PSAs in that report.
And I believe also that Rose has gone to one of the retirement facilities in Los Altos to tell them, I don't know if it was Rose or one of her people, to tell them about the events of the library as part of as an in-person introduction to PSAs.
Yes. Rose, would you like to say anything about that?
Thank you, Carol. Yes, one of our librarians, Laura, she did go out to the, I believe it was the Forum, the senior living facility, and she did a presentation to the residents there that were interested, and she said it went very well.
And that was, they requested that, correct? Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Yes, they requested that after Carol contacted them about the opportunities for public service announcements. So Melvin, I'll go to you next with the Futures Subcommittee.
Sure. Now that we have a template for filling out what next year's work plan and other things are, we'll fill that out. The team and I have had discussions via email that what we want to do is continue the work that we did on the self-service, which is to identify promising new technologies, to interview and canvass libraries that have piloted those technologies and report back to the commission as to which ones we believe are worth further exploration.
Fantastic, fantastic. So more like the open access.
Correct. Yeah.
That type of technology. Okay.
Yeah. And in this case, instead of drilling down on a single technology, I think we want to cast a fairly wide net to identify the most promising new techs before we drill down.
Okay. Wonderful. Any questions? Okay. The work plan subcommittee, that's Pierre.
I mean, this is the catch-all Ying and I do for the work plan itself. I don't know whether you want to use this or not. I had originally, when I was chair, it was sort of like my second assignment. So.
Well, would you be willing to continue with it?
Sure, we could collect everything and
make sure
work
it's
with
well
Jamie.
Organized. Yes, make sure it's well organized and
yeah, we could do that.
Reflects well on our commission.
If Ying's okay with it.
Super.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions?
I had one thing I wanted to say about the future stuff. Allison's presentation really, I said it before, it really tracked well with a lot of the future stuff that we've been pursuing, which was sort of cool. Like we're in sync with where the county is going, which is great.
Good observation. Absolutely. Thank you. Do we have any potential future agenda items that anybody would like to put on the agenda for next time?
The only suggestion I would have is maybe to do to keep the work plan there, so that your next meeting would be after your joint meeting with City Council. So depending on feedback that you get from your joint meeting, you could make any minor adjustments to the work plan. That would be my only suggestion.
That's a great suggestion, Jamie. Thank you. We'll put that on the agenda and we'll do a debriefing of our council meeting. The good, the bad, the ugly. Okay. All right. Anything else? Anybody want to raise anything before we adjourn for the evening? Okay. Thank you so very, very much. I appreciate your vote of confidence in electing me chairman. And Nelvin, I look forward to working with you as the vice chair. And Jamie, with all of your support, thank you so very much. And all the rest of you. We're a good team. We are a really good team. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. See you soon.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.